I'm turning the recorder on.
Okay.
And we should be recording now. And
it has a little screen up here, so just hit got it. I guess it says this meeting is, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll start by introducing myself. My name is Marcus Chatfied. I work with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. Today is March 22nd, 2022, and I am interviewing Miss Sara Gibbs. And I believe your current position now is Vice Chair of the Institute for Learning and Retirement. Is that true?
I'm chair.
You're the chair now?
Yeah, I was vice chair, but I'm chair now.
Okay.
January.
Wow. Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making time for this interview today. And we could start at the beginning. Could you tell me where you were born and where you grew up?
Yes, I was born in Gainesville, Florida.
Oh, native.
And grew up 6 blocks away from the University of Florida. So I, of course, when I graduated, I went to PK Young, graduated from PK Young, and then, of course, wanted to go away to school. Who wants to go, same place you've been for forever? So I went to Queens College in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year, which was a girls' school, and then quickly decided I wanted to be back at the University of Florida. So I transferred back and graduated with a BA in history.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. And let's see. And then, so what did you do after college?
After college, I married and moved to St. Petersburg, Florida, my husband's hometown. And we were there for 26 years and raised our 2 boys there. And in 1991, my husband was given a position with the University of Florida Foundation. So we came back to Gainesville, which was a very easy way to move, to come back home. And it works. So many people say you can't come home again, but you can.
And when did you return to Gainesville?
1991.
Okay. Wow. And so when you came back in 1991, what were your ideas about, at that point, were you thinking about retirement in 1991?
No, I was not. In fact, I first, for 11 years, worked with a division at the university as a training coordinator, and then answered an ad for the Oak Hammock. They were looking for someone to be a director of community services, dean of residence, which was a catchy little title. In other words, to get some educational long-range planning and in place, and started working for Oak Hammock 2 years before it opened in 2002. It opened in 2004. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was hired to get in to get the all the educational programs in line, because they had promised that to all the residents that were moving in.
Okay. And before we get into my questions about the Institute for Learning and Retirement, did you say that your position at UF was a training coordinator?
Yes, with the fiscal plant division.
Okay. And what kind of work was that? What was your responsibilities with that?
Mainly to coordinate training, because I certainly teach them how to do like the J lifts and all of the things they needed with the physical plant. But I would bring speakers in or trainers in and coordinate different requirements that they had to have for their positions for all the different variety of skills that are needed at the physical plant, which I think I'm not sure what it's called now, but it was, well, architects and engineers, it ran the gamut. There were the building services of the people that were cleaning the dorms and the classrooms, to the grounds division, to telecommunications. It was really a conglomerate of a lot of different specialties. But I would bring the trainers in.
Okay. So you had familiarity with bringing trainers in for a whole lot of different fields. It sounds like a lot of different areas of expertise. So you answered the ad, and what was the title? Dean of
Residence, and then Director of Community Services. It was sort of a catchy title to go with the director of one of the few departments that were at Oak Hammock.
Okay. And so at that time, was the idea for the Institute of ILR, at the time, was the idea for the ILR already developed?
Yes, with the board, who of course they've been working, since the late 90s, I'm sure, to put together. I think it was John, well, I know it was John Lombardi, who was president of the university at that time, wanted to have a continuing care retirement community connected with the university. And that was one of the things that he wanted to make sure that we had the ongoing educational component for our residents, because they were aiming for very vibrant members that were like to be stimulated intellectually. So it fit hand in hand. And he called his deans in and said, we're planning this facility and we want you to support it. So when they come to the department and ask if you'll send some speakers over on a particular topic, I want a resounding yes. So that made it easy. They were very eager to accommodate us, which was wonderful.
And they're all volunteer professors, right?
Correct. Yes. Good and bad. We don't pay any of our speakers, so they come out of the goodness and their eagerness. And it's interesting because most of them that have said, oh, it's so delightful to talk to an audience that is really eager and listening and paying attention. So it's been a win-win for both.
Yeah.
The presenters and the participants.
Yeah. Well, I looked at the website this morning to look at the curriculum, and I looked at just the curriculum for spring of 2022. And I was just astonished at the range of topics just for this one semester. Yeah. Did it start out that complex and full, or
no,
did it start slower?
Yeah. It started slower. Of course, we started, as I mentioned, before Oak Hammock opened. So what we did was have like a wine and cheese at, well, actually it was at Hale Country Club, and invited the Gainesville community to come and learn about the Institute for Learning and Retirement, what our plans were. And we started, of course, with Gainesville community people, because no one was living at Oak Hammock. Now, those that were from Gainesville and planning to move to Oak Hammock certainly participated, but the majority of our members were from the Gainesville community. And we met at, in our sales office. Our opera group would meet there, and our book club and one of the current events classes would meet in like our boardroom. And we even had classes in our model, in the little tiny living room of the model. And then the opera class, which was one of our earliest, moved and started meeting at Sidney Ives' house. And they became a very strong group that had bonded to one another. And it's one of our strongest programs still going. They have about 30 participants, but they have been loyal and always been there for the opera group.
And when you say the opera group, they're watching operas or studying opera?
Yes, they pick a theme for that semester, and then they have speakers and then show the opera on the big screen. So that they have been an amazing group.
Wow,
and
that's
our oldest, I would think.
Wow, I never would have guessed that opera was one of the first ones to get started.
Yeah, it is, and still going strong.
Yeah, and you mentioned one of the other ones was a book club.
Yes, there was a book club, and now that when Oak Hammock opened, Oak Hammock sort of took control of that. It's not really an ongoing ILR program. It's a local, the Oak, what do they call it? The Acorn Club or something like that. And they they meet at lunchtime and discuss books, but it's not really an ILR program anymore. We have had different speakers come in on different books or other topics connected with literature, but this group sort of faded into Oak Hammock.
Right. And there was a third one I think you mentioned that started right at the beginning.
Yeah, it was a current event.
Current events.
I'm just going to turn my phone off so it doesn't ring here. Jeez. There we go. Yes, we met actually at the Gainesville Community Church on Fifth Avenue at that point, because it was a large group. And then they have continued on with different, like Great Decisions, which is part of the Foreign Policy Association. And it's those that are really interested in what's going on in the world today. And we've limited it now to 25 people, and they can have open discussion on certain topics.
And so what percentage do you think, how many people at the beginning attending these classes, what percentage were future members or intended to become members of Oak Hammock, and how many were just interested community members?
Right at first, they were interested community members, but it's amazing how many of those that started early participating in the Institute for Learning and Retirement have come to be residents at Oak Hammock. It has been a fabulous marketing tool. And I think that's the vision that the original board had, that they knew that if we could get people involved, that they would want more and see the benefits of continuing care.
Yeah. And so in your role as Dean of Residence, and will you remind me again the rest of the title?
Director of Community Services.
Right. So Did you do other things besides coordinate the ILR?
Yes. community services was really the face of the community in that it was the receptionist area, it was the concierge, it was the transportation. We were very involved with, we called them members back then, now that we've changed the name to residents. We were the first people that they saw. We would welcome them, have a new member program, and some of them would come and say, why don't you have a gardening group? And we say, if you're interested in starting one, we will advertise it, we will set the meeting, and then y'all take it from there, which worked beautifully, not only with gardening, but with the needlers, meaning the sewing group. We had a beautiful needlers room where they do quilts, they do needlepoint, they do general, any type of seamstress type things. And that's been a very active group, a group of artists. Oh, the artists, it's amazing. You always hear that as people age and they've never had time to tap into their creativity, some of them who had never picked up a crayon or a pencil or whatever have done some beautiful work. And we had a couple of artists that had moved into Oak Hammock, and they took over that area. And we have a fabulous art league that they even have art shows and invite artists from the Gainesville community to come into the Oak Hammock art show. So we sort of coordinated whatever the members wanted, which worked well. The woodworkers, we ended up building a whole huge work area for them behind the main apartment building. So it's really been a well-oiled machine that runs on its own. Basically, it was just getting those gears started.
Yeah, so those first years, there was a lot of gears being put together, it sounds like, with all these new ideas coming. And
they would bring them. We really didn't have to search for things for them to do. They would come ask, why don't we have this? And then we would let them run with it.
Yeah. And how long did you have that position?
I started in 2002 and I fully retired in 2018. I went part-time in 2016, but I still came in 20 hours a week for the ILR. And my communications director, who was under me, took over as director of community services, but I held on to the ILR until then.
Wow, so you really saw the development of so many interest groups, and are there any that stand out as some of your favorites, or most, any particular ones?
Well, one of them that is really, well, a couple of them, really. The woodworkers have been amazing with what they do, and the talent that they have. And they brought a lot of their machines that they had in their garage. So it worked well. The gardeners have a very active group and built a beautiful, a huge greenhouse and then they have garden plots. They were fighting over the garden plots. We didn't have enough garden plots. The artist, the art league probably has been the most amazing to see the work that they have done. So they've all done really well and have really created a lot of interest and brought in a lot of people, had that bonding with others.
So
that's so important too, the socialization, instead of just staying in an apartment or a home, that was the one thing that our board stressed, don't let this age group age alone. They need to get out. They need to be active. The bar opens at 3:30 or 4 in the afternoon, and a group goes in there, maybe not to have a drink, but sit and socialize. And it's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's just amazing. So the ILR was just one of many projects you saw developing. Were you most involved with developing the ILR in those early years?
Yes. In the early years, we used a template that Elder Hostel had, which now is called Road Scholar. And the Institute on Aging, we had to pay an upfront fee at that point to join their network. Like you can go on the Road Scholar net website and ask where are lifelong learning institutes in the state of Florida or anywhere, and they'll show those that are listed with them in their network. So that was very helpful. There were a couple of people in the Institute on Aging that I worked with, and we started the ILR. We have continued to be involved with the Institute on Aging we'll have next week, we're having our Levitt Awards, which is a poster contest that we coordinate with the university, the Institute on Aging. And we've selected 12 people to present their research on their posters on aging, a different phase of aging. And then we'll select 5 out of those to come do their presentations, and then winners will be awarded money, the first 5 places. So we've tried to strengthen that connection.
Yeah, I saw that poster contest on the website, and it's student researchers. Is that true? That's
true. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they come to Oak Hammock to present their posters and summarize their research?
Yes, what they'll do, they'll come, in fact, I think it's next Friday, and they will put up all or this Friday, I guess it is. Yeah, the 25th, is that this Friday? Probably.
Yes.
They will put their posters up all over the Oak Room, and they'll stand there by their poster, and then we'll have a wine and cheese reception, and people will come in and they'll explain what their research is about. And then there are, I think, 5 judges that will choose the 5 best. And then in April, those that are selected will come do a presentation, and then the winners are selected from the 5, first, second, third, So it's great for their resumes, and they do get a little bit of money. So
yeah,
works well.
Are they undergraduate students, or
some are undergraduate and some are graduate? Both.
So it's both. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's. And then who are the judges?
There are 2 from the university, or 3 from the university and 2 from the ILR, and they're different each year. Okay. And I don't know the names. In fact, I'm not even supposed to know who the judges are at this point. So.
Yeah. And so is that what's in the website? Is that the student symposium?
Yes.
Okay. And are there other student symposiums on other topics other than aging?
No. Now, Santa Fe will do a similar sort of much smaller type of poster exhibition with Santa Fe in the end of April. And that can be on anything. And that's a relative, we've only done that for about 5 or 6 years. This program with Institute on Aging, we've been doing for 18 years or so. Yeah.
Wow. So does Oak Hammock have, what kind of relationship does Oak Hammock have with Santa Fe College?
We do have speakers that come from Santa Fe.
Okay.
In fact, one of our most popular speakers is from Santa Fe, and she has been very active with the ILR for years. And she's retired. She's history maritime and is a fabulous speaker. We've been very blessed with our speakers. I mean, we've had people like David Colburn, Charles Sidman, who was Dean of College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, who lives at Oak Hammock, Bob Graham, who now is living at Oak Hammock, but he used to come twice a year and speak for a number of years. It's amazing the willingness of people to give their time. And it's really made life easy for us, and it's been very rewarding.
And so are the speakers, so there's a combination, it sounds like. There's courses that residents can take, and then there's also guest speakers where it's a one-time lecture. Is that true?
That's true.
And
We have a curriculum committee, and the curriculum committee is divided into 2 subcommittees, humanities and science. And we try to get a pretty equal balance between the 2. It seems like recently we've had more science than we have humanities. In fact, we were at our board meeting yesterday had talked about we need to bring back some of our old Walter Califf, who was wonderful, unfortunately is no longer with us, but he headed up the humanities and he called him his perennial flowers. We need to bring them back. Some of the speakers that we've had, just to keep the literature aspect going, and the music and the arts. So it works well, having the 2 subcommittees, because so many people have talents in the science field and in connections with the university, and the same with the humanities.
And are there any topics or subject areas in particular that tend to be the most popular with residents?
Well, Jerry Langford has for years done a jazz series, which is extremely popular. And we'd had something we call the mini medical school, which we would coordinate with the medical college. Whereas a group of orthopedics would come and talk about the state-of-the-art things they were doing with hips, knees, whatever. Same with cardiology. Those were all very popular. The literature courses have been popular too. And we had a series on biblical leaders. Some people, and our foreign policy, the Great Decisions course has been popular, as well as the current events and opera. Yeah, we've got some ones that have been running for years that it's amazing that the interest. We also have we've had the Spanish class for a number of years, and that's more of a conversational Spanish. And then about 8 years ago, started a German class, which has been very popular. We have beginners and intermediate and conversationalist, but a wonderful teacher that sort of uses a storyboard approach to make it easy to learn. So those have been popular. We have stayed away from anything they can find elsewhere in the community, like we've tried to stay away from, because the Santa Fe used to have, I don't know whether they're still doing it or not with COVID, and where if they go into the high schools and have night programs there, the community education. And so anything like that, we've sort of let them handle, and we have more in-depth programs.
And how does a course get started? Do residents approach you and say, we'd like a class on this, or how?
Well, that can happen, but generally the curriculum committee, they will come up with someone will, several of the members of the curriculum committee are retired professors, and so they will, say, why don't we do a particular course on this? Or they have connections with the university and different people that they feel like they can talk into setting up a course for us. We've just sent out within the past month an interest survey to try to get some new courses, and we mailed it out. We have about 250 people living in Gainesville that participate, are members of ILR. So we mailed all of that. Well, we mailed it to everyone at Oak Hammock and the 250 in the city to try to get some new, fresh ideas. So, and then we'll just go from there. It's amazing. You would think you would run out of ideas, but we fortunately never have.
Well, I'm just amazed as you're talking, I'm just thinking, this is just so exciting to think there's such a wide variety.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing to have retired professors there and prestigious scholars. It's really exciting.
It is. And it's just, it's amazing to me after, almost 20 years. Well, yeah, about 20 years of us being the Institute for Learning and Retirement. How many people in Gainesville do not know about us? I'll have people that I know really well. Now, what are you involved with? What is the ILR? And I said, I've talked about it for how many years now? I've sent you the bulletin, but anyway, we are, in fact, we're just talking about putting some more spot ads on Channel 5 and, the different WRUF, everything. So
yeah,
we keep it going. We've had a downturn with COVID, of course. The benefit is if you can stay home and watch it or participate. And we have gotten one of the science committees got someone who was in Connecticut to speak on a certain technical thing. So that's been helpful. But we've missed the socialization, and you can see a little interest waning. And we're hoping by fall we can really bring it up again.
Yeah, because it's still online right now, right?
Yes, and we've talked about keeping the hybrid, because so many people like that, but it has hurt us with the socialization and making sure the presenters are willing to come back to present. It makes such a difference. Right now, only a couple of the presenters come into the Oak Room. But I went to a class last week, and it was up on the big screen. I could have sat home and, Zoomed it, and it just was missing something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. What are some of your favorite courses that you've been part of?
I'm a humanities sector more than the science, although I've loved the mini medical school to find out what's going on with the latest techniques and all. The jazz class with Gary Langford has been one of my favorites, and a lot of the literature classes. I've loved it when Colburn would talk about the Yellow Dog Democrat, and then also Charles Sidman, his lectures about different parts of Europe and all have been fascinating. Yeah. He's a phenomenal speaker. He paces back and forth without one note and can talk for an hour and a half on the subject. It's incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And so from the beginning, there's been a current events course.
Yes.
What keeps that from devolving into just a political,
it is political.
Yeah, are there ground rules?
There are ground rules. And in fact, we've discussed this last month's meeting. Some people have gotten a little irritated because politics, everything is political right now, from vaccines to who knows what. Critical race, I think they discussed some of that, and some of them didn't like that. So it's been interesting because with the political parties, it's gone from one extreme to the other, back and forth. So it's a fine line, and the moderator, Rick Gold, really has to take control and try to hear everyone's side.
Yeah. That process itself is probably somewhat educational, it sounds like.
True. Yeah.
So with the invasion of Ukraine, is there a current events course on that, for example?
I'm sure they pick the topics each week, and they will a lot of times go to podcast, and shoot it up on the screen and then discuss it afterwards and listen. And I'm not involved with that, so I don't know what. I'm sure they're probably discussing Ukraine, I would imagine.
Yeah. Let's see, are there any other connections between the Institute for Learning and Retirement and Gainesville residents? Like at the beginning, I think you said most were interested in Oak Hammock. What do you think is the percentage now of Gainesville residents that attend the ILR?
Oh, goodness. I would say 60-40. It's just easier for Oak Hammock people to walk from their apartment into the Oak Room. And so probably 60-40. I'm not sure if that's even correct. And of course, with COVID, it's even harder to put a number on it. But, and it's amazing what a beautiful marketing tool it's been for Oak Hammock.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that started coming in and out of Oak Hammock and then thinking, boy, this is pretty nice, pretty slick.
Yeah.
And have moved in.
Yeah. And so at the beginning, you were saying that it was mostly people right in Gainesville, of course, attending the ILR. And what I've heard from some of the interviews is that a lot of the Oak Hammock residents came from outside of the Gainesville area.
Yes.
So did they hear about the ILR as alumni all over the nation? Was this part of the original marketing, this idea for the Institute? Was that?
Yes, yes.
That was a big draw from the beginning.
Big draw. And that's why they hired me 2 years before it opened, because they had promised this educational component to be in place. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And it sounds so your position as technical coordinator at UF really was a perfect training, it sounds like, for this. Was there any other anything else that prepared you for this work with the ILR and your work at Oak Hammock?
I had taught for a couple of years. I went back after I got my BA and decided maybe I needed some education courses and something to do with my degree, and my interest in education. I've always been really, and I've loved history. So it's sort of was a learning experience and just developing. I've always been pretty good with organizing, and so I used the few talents that I had to try to put it together. And I had a lot of help. I certainly didn't do it single-handedly, but a great working relationship with the Institute on Aging with some great people that we all would meet constantly and get it off the ground.
Yeah. And if you had to say if you had to summarize really the most meaningful part of your work at Oak Hammock, what's really is it possible to say what's the most special, or what do you value the most?
I value most the relationship with wonderful people. The people at Oak Hammock, it just was a fabulous working environment. I would love to be able to still be working but I'm past that now. And so I've loved being able to keep involved with the Institute for Learning in Retirement and serving on the board. It's just very rewarding. And it was very rewarding when people would, early on, when people would come and say, can't we have an interest group in this particular book club or an art league or gardening or whatever, and to be able to help them. And they're always so appreciative. So it was a fabulous time. I feel very, very fortunate to have had this experience in life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
that's just wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we didn't cover in this interview?
I can't think of anything right now. So, but I've thoroughly enjoyed talking with you, and you've made it very easy. I thought, gosh, what am I going to say? But you led me right into it. So,
well, it's such a wonderful topic. I really enjoyed this. So I'll go ahead and turn the recorder off then.
Okay.